everybody? Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. This is not so much a review as it is the very first Living the Line mailbag. As our subscriber base has been growing, we've been getting a lot more people sending us free stuff, which is awesome. I just feel kind of bad. It's like, I feel like I should have paid for this, but people are taking the time to produce something, pay to have it made, and then pay to ship it to me or Sean. That's awesome. That's really really appreciated, and it's a lot of fun because I'm finding a lot of stuff that I didn't know about. So with these, I'm gonna try not to review as much. I mean, I'll praise something if I think it's cool, but I just want to show stuff because even if I don't really like it, some of these I really like. Some of them I kind of like. Some of them I didn't like. Someone else may like it, or someone else may find value in that. And this channel is really about exposure more than anything. Or at least the way I think about it is just exposure, helping people get seen. So we're just going to go through some of the things that people have been gracious enough to send. This first one comes from Don Davis, aka Nutria Loaf, someone I've been talking to on Instagram here and there, and he's doing these little chick tracks. I've got 2 of each, so eventually we'll do a giveaway too because I'm getting multiples of some things here and there. So I'll save some of these, but these are like these chick tracks, and they're really funny. One is how to becoming a prosthetics user, and it's these people who like want to be amputated. I've been seeing more and more of this like desire to be amputated. I just saw that in a Tia Roxe video, and had talked to a person a few years ago that was intrigued by people who were posting on message boards that they were going to meet up and one person was going to cannibalize a piece of the other person. And I don't know, I'm just hearing more and more stuff like that. It's concerning to me. But anyways, this is kind of about that, how to become a prosthetics user. And then this one really cracked me up because it's a track for Cthulhu. So obviously the chick tracks were religious propaganda pieces for the Christian church. And so I think this is really funny to just flip it and like this is a religious propaganda for the Eldritch gods and the outer gods and all of that. So that's funny. Our friend James Edward Clark, who we've interviewed and I've talked about his other books, Tales to Enlighten and the rest of the Pissant Apocalypse, sent me issue 4 of Pissant Apocalypse. There will be 5 issues eventually, so I'm really looking forward to issue 4. I've already interviewed the first 3 altogether. The first 3, when they started, I thought, it's a little over the top for me in terms of the story, but I really like the art. As I read further and further into it, I start to like the story and the world that James is building more and more, and some of the over-the-top stuff that was kind of a turnoff to me makes more sense within the context of the greater story he's building. So that's great. James is a great artist. I think this stuff should be, this should be in stores. This should be collected in a volume. This is professional stuff here for sure. Really excited to get this piece, Miles North, by my buddy Brian Payne. Brian Payne did a podcast back in like 2018 that myself and Dean Westerfield would call in and we'd all kind of chat. There were a couple other people who would jump in and out of those conversations. Brian, like myself, is a big fan of using photo reference. He likes photorealism in comics, was a fan of Dave Sims and a fan of what we were doing on Strange Death. And so we've just been in touch over the years. I haven't talked to Brian recently. I really miss his voice. I miss talking to him. So I'm going to buy the rest of his books, which is something I've been meaning to do. But I'm going a little crazy on Christmas and just buying like complete works by different artists that I've been hanging around in the back of my mind. So Brian's going to be one of those guys. And I really look forward to hopefully we can set up an interview with him too, because we used to have a lot of fun just doing these talks, and it'd be fun to do. They were limited in time, so it'd be fun to do a more freeform thing. One of the things that Brian does with his comics that's really interesting is Brian lives in Alaska. This piece here is about a comic artist who gets culturally canceled, and then so he moves to Alaska to escape. But Brian does live in Alaska, and seems like he lives a pretty secluded life with him and his wife, Skywalker Payne. And so when I first started seeing Brian's work, it was confusing to me because pretty much he uses himself and Skywalker as the models no matter what the story is. And at first it was like, man, I'm really confused. Like, I'd like to see a variety. Like I would, up until that point, have never done that, reuse the same model for a different story. Like, I feel like that's confusing. And then he was like, but people do that in movies all the time. You have actors that play multiple roles. You have Will Smith could be in Suicide Squad and a Marvel movie and in Men in Black, right? Like, what's the big deal? And that's how he's thinking about it. And I thought that was such a genius idea. I don't know why it never occurred to me. So, I mean, for my own work, if I have access to different models, I'll probably use them. But I like the idea that you can have actors that play comic characters as well. And so, since I don't think Brian has a ton of people up there isolated in Alaska, he's making do with himself and his wife, and I think that's a great idea. And so I'm really excited to get a hold of the rest of his comics and be able to share them with you. This one has some pretty funny moments in it where this Miles North character has taken a lot of drugs and is tripping balls. And when this character comes in, I really love this moment where he's so drugged that he's able to see her talking to him and see the shadow, like the word balloon becomes a physical presence in the room. He's so messed up. So that, I think that's really fun, and just a lot of nice mark making. From what I've seen, I think Brian's moved on to working with a brush. He used to use pins more, and there's a lot of looseness in his work now. So anyways, looking forward to getting all the rest of Brian's work, and really looking forward to talking to him. Definitely check out Brian's stuff. And then the rest of these books came from Buzza Wuzza. Buzza Wuzza reached out to me and said, hey, can I send you books? I said, yeah, man, of course. And so he sent me this. I got a nice little letter and an original drawing, which is cool. This is drawn by Buzza. This is apparently him and his character Twisto, who apparently is making Buzzo do things. So we hope that's just a narrative conceit. Buzzo sent along. These are apparently the things that Twisto has made him do. Twisto has made him make these bubblegum cards. And he's getting all these photos and just like with a Sharpie drawing the Buzzo rat creature on top of these images and then making them into cards. So I'm not a big card collector guy, but I just love all these little extra things that people make when they're making self-made books. There's so much care and love and nostalgia and just excitement. Like it was probably a pain in the ass, but also like him sitting here and like folding up this little card pack, that I get excited every time I pack up a book to send it to somebody because I know they're gonna get it and open it in the way I'm excited. And that same kind of excitement about just stuff and making things seems to be in these card packs. So even though it's real like DIY hacked together, like that makes it cooler to me. So this is Twisto Comics #1. This is Buzza Wuzza doing the Twisto character. It's kind of this like over the top grotesque punk rock rat thing, and he's obviously in the park meeting the hippie freaks, and there's like this punk versus hippie thing there. I could do without either of those subcultures, but whatever. I like punk rock. I just don't believe the majority of punk rocks are actually living up to their own, living up to what they're saying they're living up to. It's a pretty defined aesthetic. If I take the philosophy of punk rock is just fuck it, do your own thing, then I can get behind it. But I don't think anyone that's espousing that's really doing their own thing. They all look the same to me. But so I don't know. Anyways, tangent. But right here, I really love all this Japanese brush mark making stuff that he's collaging into the background there. That's cool. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and let Twisto and all the hippie freaks and all the punk rock rats can go into a field and have it out for all I'm concerned. That's pretty great. And then Monsters Exposed is the anthology. This is where it started for Buzza Wuzza, organizing this between a group of friends, and they're just doing these like horror stories. And some of the artists in here are pretty accomplished, like Joe Gonzalez is doing some really good stuff. And then, some of the artists aren't so great. They're just doing this because it's fun. There's a lot of cool, like punk rock aesthetic collage stuff. Some Tommy Mastori looking like 8-bit type of stuff. Some stuff like this, not the best art in the world, but there's some really fun experimental stuff going on with digital work. There's just different, like here's a Joe Gonzalez piece, just different approaches throughout. So I think that's a lot of fun. This first artist here, what's this guy's name? This Chaco is someone who throughout the issues is getting better and better and better. So really watching like some cool development there. In the early issues, Joe Gonzalez is the one that stands out to me. Here's a Joe Gonzalez story talking about this is real life horrific shit. This fungal pathogen that affects 13 and 17-year-old periodical cicadas, and it like turns their abdomen into this white chalky mess that falls off, and then that respores, and then they'll get infected again. Or no, they'll try and mate with the infected. It makes the cicadas go like sexually crazy, and they'll try and hump each other, and then they'll spread the pathogen. So they become like these flying salt shakers of death, is what it says, and that's terrifying. I mean, these kind of intelligent fungal infections that take over bugs are really horrific. Some cool like ballpoint pen art. So just so you get a sense of what this is, issue 3. Look at the back. There's usually some really cool art on the back. And they start adding more artists to the group in some of these later issues. Like this artist here, Arthur Quisley. Kind of this wood block looking. I mean, it looks like pen and ink, but it has like a wood block look to it. Here's another Joe Gonzalez. So you can see all the artists improving, which is really cool. Here's another Chaco story. So this one, you see a lot of improvement. This almost looks like a Brandon Graham page to me, especially with this big dinosaur with the city on it. And I can imagine Brandon coloring this and it looking quite a bit like one of his pages. So I'm seeing a lot of development in this ongoing story in particular, but a development in the other artists. I like this right here too, the Nick Sticks AI generated synthetic meat. Like, yeah, that's coming probably. Scary, sad. Here you get Chaco doing some color work, and this is beautiful. You see, what happens when the colors can come in. So I think this artist could go off and do it's Arthur Owlsley in that other book. But I think this Chaco should go off and do a colored piece, because that looks amazing to me. Here's some more Joe Gonzalez. Really interested in beetles, it seems like. Charles Clownson. And these are all little horror stories. Here's another Arthur Owlsley. Isn't that the name of a character in Spider-Man, the owl? Here's a story here. This is a new addition, I think, to the crew. Freddie Seeliger. This looks very animated. Kind of like a Pikachu character. Again, probably cooler colored. And then I really like this. Future Monsters Exposed artist, Henry Shepard, age 13. This could be you someday. Contact us for information. So they're like looking for people to expose. And young. And I love that. Like, I have no idea how old everyone involved in this is. But the fact that they're opening it up to like young kids and like, hey, be involved, like this means everything to a 13-year-old. Also, really good art for a 13-year-old. But for a 13-year-old to go get a big published thing like this with other artists in it, some really cool stuff, and then be able to see that, like, that means everything. So that's the coolest thing in the world, and I love that. I love this series just for that. Some more really cool art here. That's by Arthur Owlsley. Really, I think a lot of these artists are being held back by the black and white format. So hopefully they can afford a color print one day. Hopefully issue 6 is in color. Because a lot of these artists... Here's another Joe Gonzalez. It looks like Beatlemania 3, yeah. And then I really like this artist too, Rene Lopez. Reminds me of not a little bit less sophisticated with the line art version of the online comic that I've been looking at on Instagram lately called Muffin Top, which looks pretty good. It's like an erotic humor comic, and this kind of reminds me of that. So I really like this art too. I think as Renee gets better with line weight, or if she chooses to get better with line weight, or starts working with color, like these again could look really awesome. And here's another Chaco working with color. So yeah, I think there's a lot of awesome development from issue 1 to issue 5 in all of these artists. I love that they're like putting exposure out for kids as well. That seems like really community oriented, and they're just having fun. Where are these? I forget where he said that they're from, this group of friends. But I just really like that they're doing that kind of promotion for kids as well. No, he doesn't say on his letter. where they're from. I forget. I got these ones a while ago. I've been kind of collecting these things and holding on to them. So I really like this Monsters Exposed and how it's developing. And hopefully over time they'll get into a big enough budget to let people mess with color, because pretty much all of the artists in here, when I see them work in color, they're doing better stuff. And that would be really cool to see, just like maybe a one-off issue to let those people go. So thanks to all of the people who have sent stuff over. Like I said, I always feel a little bit bad that I'm just getting stuff for free, but obviously I'm not going to complain. I'm super excited about it. So thank you all for taking the time to make this stuff. Thank you all for paying your own money to produce it and then paying money to ship it to me. I can't be grateful enough. And if other people want to send us stuff to look at on the mailbag, then I'll have an address below that you can send stuff to, and that's where to send it if you want to get it on the channel. I think people have been sending some stuff to Sean, and Sean doesn't have the time to do like little one-man reviews and stuff, so I think I'll be getting some more, like all the Cowlick comics and stuff that I was reviewing, those got sent to me, but they got sent to Sean and then from Sean to me. So we'll put my address, you can just send them to me, and then I'll forward things to Sean if he wants to see them. But yeah, that's the plan, is we'll keep doing these. And then other things that I get sent, like when James sent me the Pissant Apocalypse, I wanted to do just a review of it on its own as well. So depending on what I get, sometimes I'll do a one-man review, and sometimes I'll save up and I'll do a bunch all at once like this. So thank you again, everyone, so much for sending these along. I really look forward to seeing the rest of what's out there. This is all about exposure, exposing myself and exposing you all. So really appreciate it. If you enjoy what we're doing here on the channel, the best way to support us is through Patreon or through buying the books that Sean's putting out on Living the Line. With Patreon, that just helps us have some extra money so we can buy a lot of the books that we review. We try and turn that right back around into the community by buying books. And then for the books that Sean's putting out through Living the Line, that really helps support the mission of Living the Line, which is to make just better quality, better produced books. So we'll go ahead and take a look at some of those awesome books that you can buy. Plaza by Yokoyama Yuichi. This is translated by Ryan Holmberg and is very large for a manga, so that's a really cool feature of this book, this standard manga size. And this is just a 200 some odd page representation of what Yokoyama Yuichi thinks of the Carnival Parade. And he's just made this like relentlessly loud and rhythmic book that pushes all kinds of amazing boundaries of what comics and manga are, and we could not recommend this book more. The Exile by Eric Creek is a gorgeously illustrated Viking saga of revenge. Eric Creek calls it his Viking Western. It's about a guy who's been away on the warpath and is returning home to some family troubles that have to be resolved. And this is told in just this amazing, like, kind of 3-color art style that looks like old woodblock cuts or something. It's absolutely gorgeous book that you've got to pick up. Thanks for following along. Take it away, Jack.
You want to see all these books? Smash that subscribe button and the like button and the bell, and then you get them.